Hello and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man that has $90,000 in his bank account. It's John Levingood.
And $90,000 is a good amount of money to have in your bank account. But man, what I wouldn't give to just have 90,000 donuts in my pantry.
Just go to the farmer's market every weekend and sell them.
I'm not selling those donuts. They're going down on leg day.
Yeah, if they were boutique donuts showing up to my home every day, I would just go sell them. But if it's those donuts that they're eating from the gas station, you're not selling those. Like those are in, like, if the world ends, those are what you're eating for the rest of your life. Those
it's
90,000.
Like a Twinkie. It's going to be good in 100 years.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean,
you wouldn't even know it's old.
if you were a survivalist, I guess you would take the donuts because cash will be nothing to you, but the donuts will.
Okay, I have a gas station donut question now. So
Yeah.
These donuts, right? We both agree, just like a Twinkie, that in its wrapper, if the zombie apocalypse hits today and you and I are scrapping around, right?
Mhm.
And it's like 30 years later, we're like 70 years old, and we find a pack of Twinkies, everyone in the world is going to view a Twinkie like, the snack food equivalent of a roach in nature. Like, It's good. It's fine. I think that those little packs of like white and chocolate covered donuts are the same. Like when you open that, it's going to be fine. But both of those packs, if you open it and set it on a plate on a table in the open air for even an hour, I don't think you're going to want it anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like they taste just as fresh in 30 years as they will today when you first open it. But but 30 years ago and today, or 30 years from now and today, they're going to go stale really fast because those donuts get extra dry.
Mm-hmm.
Those little powdered donuts,
oh man,
if you bite them, you're going to choke on it.
You watch those things over the course of a half an hour, and I feel like you just see them becoming an artifact in front of your eyes outside of the package.
Right, like it's contracting.
Yeah.
As it's drying out, you see this little, like a little fungus spore from the beginning of Prometheus going off, like as it's contracting, and that powdered sugar just like it gets pushed out of the inside of it.
And then you become an alien loaded with spores, but you become a frosted donut alien.
Like a Stay Puft Prometheus monster.
How did Mark die? Well, 30 years. Well, so they survived the apocalypse. They survived for 30 years. They opened up a bag of powdered donuts. Some of the donuts, they left it out for half an hour. Dumb move.
They were talking too long.
Yeah, they were talking too long.
Bites.
And then the thing spored into John's nose, and he turned into a 30-foot tall Stay Puft donut man.
Right.
And he ate Mark.
I don't really know who's the loser in this situation because both these fates sound bad.
That's like the way you want to go down, though. It's not like here lies John Levingood, good guy, he's out. Here lies Mark Hoffmeyer, eaten by a 30-foot donut monster.
Right.
Like, that's what you want.
So my cause of death was becoming 30-foot tall.
Yeah, and then you just dried out immediately after eating me.
Not unlike a marshmallow would, by the way. Bag of marshmallows, same thing.
Yeah.
Bag of marshmallows, 20 years old. Well, I don't really know this.
Get the fire
I'm
ready.
Hypothesizing. You open that up, it's probably going to be okay. It's in the air for an hour. You get to that donut, it's like it's off.
Mm-hmm. You'd have to throw it in water and just stir it and drink it if you're going to do it later.
Like to have some like mallow water.
Yeah. To keep it somewhat, it would just suck up the water, go, and then all your water would be gone, and then you'd have a dry
big,
donut.
Puffy, like squishy, strainable donut. Or not donut, marshmallow.
Yeah. Get a fire ready, cook it up. Listen, I'm not eating snowballs, though. We're not doing that. Or moon pies.
Do you think that they're going to revisit Stay Puft yet again in the Ghostbusters Afterlife sequel?
I hope not. I really don't. It's just too many marshmallows. Give me cotton candy.
Like in a world where Ghostbusters Afterlife is a sequel and they did revisit Stay Puft, I do question whether or not they're going to revisit them again, or if they were just pulling a Force Awakens fan movie aspect.
Whoa.
In Ghostbusters Afterlife, and now they won't do that in the sequel. And I don't think I have a complaint if they do. I'm just wondering if they go for that low hanging fruit because some producer pushed it and said everybody loves Stay Puft.
Yeah, everybody loves Stay Puft. Get them in there.
And I love seeing that Stay Puft in the snack aisle in Afterlife, right? I did.
Yeah.
I did. It was done well. It was done very well. But if they do it again, like, you need to be really clever, or I'm just going to be shaking my head like low-hanging fruit, dude.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. I like the cute ones. They're cute. Little, you went big, now you went little. You don't need to go in between. It's fine.
That was a good, simple, graspable, broadly pleasing irony.
You know, people in the theater slapped each other and went, "That's a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man," and then they moved on with their lives.
Mm.
I hope it's just an evil painting in the next one. They haven't done that yet.
Right.
So, hey, John, so every 25th episode since, well, our first 100 episodes, we mentioned Kurt Russell in every episode. Then we started doing Kurt Russell movies every 25th episode. But I'm beginning to wonder if this is just a J.T. Walsh series instead. Because we did Tequila Sunrise.
Of Executive Decision?
And then we did Tequila, he was in Tequila Sunrise. And then he was in Executive Decision. And now he's in Breakdown. We have the old KR JT reunion. 3 movies in a row starring Kurt Russell and J.T. Walsh. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I like J.T. Walsh. He's like very often the minor character, whether you're in A Few Good Men or whatever. Whereas this is about as major a role as I can immediately recall him being in.
Oh, yeah. I mean, big role for him. And you know what's interesting, too? He caught a lot of his dialogue. So Jonathan Mostow wrote this. And the scene where they pull Kurt Russell, Jeff Taylor. I never thought I'd see Kurt Russell playing Jeff Taylor. Jeff. And they also had to put him in a bunch of bulky clothes because he was ripped after shooting Escape from L.A. And so when you watch him in this movie, he has like jackets and they had to hide his muscles in this because he was still like Snake Plissken. But the scene where they pull him out of the trunk and just throw him on the ground. And JT was supposed to have this speech. Red Bar was supposed to have a speech. And JT just said to Jonathan Mostow, like, no, like, we don't need, if I do a stupid speech, no one will like me anymore. We're just keeping it quiet. I'm a murderer. I'm a serial murderer. I'm a serial killer. I'm a donut killer. He's just a horrible, horrible person. So he cut a lot of his dialogue. But I like how just manipulative and like these guys that they run across, these 4 men, they're evil, John. Red Bar, Earl, Billy, and Al. I like that Sheriff Boyd is kind of red herring. Also, everyone in the bank. Also, in the diner too. It's so good with Paranoia, but it's just 4 guys. But did you see how many license plates they had in their barn? These guys are...
Oh, no, that didn't even register. I just saw there were license plates, yeah.
Yeah, and like all the stuff that they had stolen from those people. And I presume they killed them all. So these are serious. These are like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but classy.
Well, I'll bet also, though, that the license plate weren't just keepsakes, but they were also a function of changing their own license plates.
Who knows? Maybe. But remember when he said, you should have taken them both and killed them? Remember those two people from Ohio? You just took them both and stuck a gun at them.
Well, I couldn't convince him to get in the car with his wife.
Yeah. And like, it's like they killed those people probably. They're just gnarly murderers. But I gotta tell you something, John, and this is something you're gonna find interesting. I watched this in '97, and I didn't really like it when I was 15 because I remember.
Can I pause? That means you also saw it in theaters.
Yes.
Okay.
So I saw it in theaters. I saw the trailers. I was a huge Kurt Russell guy even back then. But the trailers show the car hanging off the roof and like, this summer it's gonna be pedal to the metal with Kurt Russell flying around corners and kicking faces. Explosions and car chases. Oh yeah. So
you thought it was going to be Cliffhanger with trucks.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what the trailer led it to believe. You hear the trailer like this summer. So you're like, oh my gosh, like Kurt Russell. Oh, and so I watched it, and I think my 15-year-old brain at the time. Now I watched a lot of movies at 15. I was like, you've heard a million times on the pod. I was doing all the Clerks and Kids and Reservoir Dogs and all that stuff, and I felt like I appreciated movies, but for some reason this one just felt like such a slow burn to me. But now that I'm 40 and I watch this, and I've been in I've been on the side of the road and I've gotten into strangers' cars to go get me to a gas station. Now that I've got I'm married, this movie I love it. It's 90 minutes. It's very economical. It's a white knuckle movie. And like Kurt Russell said during the commentary, for an hour, 57 minutes, our hero in his words, is impotent. Like he does really nothing for the first hour of this movie. And this is a 90-minute movie. So it's something that I can really respect now because It's economical. It's white collar. It's like blue collar. It's just like one of those old school films. Now, like I know Roger Ebert compared it to The Vanishing, which let's see, what year was that? 1988, which was like a Dutch thriller that's much more gnarly. And he said that this one, though, since it's an American thriller, like he has to save his wife and do all that. But I want to kind of I just want to bring one thing up to you. So the end, when Kathleen Quinlan drops the truck on JT, a lot of people, Ebert hated that moment. And a lot of people in the theater didn't cheer. They cheered when Kurt Russell kicked Red in the face, which that, of course you would. But when he died, no one cheered. But the director didn't want that. Like the director did that on purpose. Like he framed it in a way where you didn't want people to cheer because of this guy. Like you just, they wanted to smush him because he said, "I'll always follow you." But he didn't want it to be pretty, that guy's death. He wanted it to be like mean and revenge. Like, how do you feel about that scene? How do you feel about the movie in general?
I felt empty, and I felt that was harrowing, the way that he died. But it was harrowing to me, the viewer. Mm-hmm. Instead of giving me catharsis, it was harrowing.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost like I was one of Red's cohorts.
Yeah.
Looking down and seeing him dead, right? When you see him down on those river rocks.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like it was cold. The music wasn't, I don't know, it just didn't have the level of dramatic flair that you'd have in True Lies when you launch the terrorist on a missile. Of course, that's a much more deliberately fun movie than this. And this movie, like you said, it's white knuckling. It wants to keep your blood pressure high. But yeah, I'm with you. Like you're not cheering. You're just like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
You're instead of whoa, it's a different kind of movie. And then of course it's not some like, oh, well now I have bloody face makeup, but I otherwise look beautiful, Kathleen Quinlan, right? It's no, I'm beaten up, I'm sweaty, I'm scared, and I'm hugging my husband because I'm terrified. Even though the guy's dead, where, it's not like Jamie Lee Curtis. She got a bruise on her cheek, but otherwise she looks gorgeous. And even though her hair is wet from sweat, it actually looks like model wet, and they kiss and they cover their eyes during an explosion. So this is such a different flavor of victory because they didn't win.
No,
they just didn't lose.
The rest of their life is going to be gnarly, John. Like they're it's going to be rough. And it's really interesting that you brought up True Lies. And even though they're different movies, but look at Goldeneye when Sean Bean falls and then the satellite lands on him. You're like, haha, like idiot,
right.
It's over the top. Yeah, like Sean Bean died again. Even in Patriot Games, he goes down super gnarly. But yeah, it's one of those movies where it doesn't really feel like a win. She does it out of anger, revenge. She's been tortured by this person, left for dead in a barn basement freezer with no oxygen. I mean, horrible, horrible man. So it's all I kind of like.
He even commented that he didn't even know if she'd be alive.
Yeah, this guy's a serial killer, and so I kind of like that. There's nothing attractive about his death, and there's nothing attractive about the way they handle it at the end. Now the writer originally had a scene where they're on a train going back to Boston, and he's like, no, I'm just gonna leave it right here. So it's kind of an odd movie for me at 15 because Kurt Russell doesn't gouge anyone's eye out with a plunger that he finds in a bathroom. He doesn't, he doesn't, even the car chase, he gets through, but it's not pretty. Like nothing he does is pretty. So I think after watching An Executive Decision, him landing planes and Snake Plissken and Escape from LA had come out at this time. So watching it, I just didn't, I don't know, something I remember my brother and I walked out and we're like, yeah, we didn't really like it. Like we just thought that was boring. But I think this is a movie that definitely ages well, because there's not much in it to date this movie except for maybe a couple cell phones in it and payphones.
And what's interesting about the cell phones too. So I've been out to southern Arizona twice for field work, each time for a couple of weeks doing biology stuff. And when you're down there, man, like it seems like you're not far from civilization in a way. Like, oh yeah, an hour that way, and you're in this town that's much bigger than the town that had Bell's Diner in this movie, whatever that was. Brackett was the town, maybe.
Yeah, no name town, 2 cops.
But in southern Arizona or in like western New Mexico, these places where I've been out like looking for bugs, basically, Dude, we're out there. I'm taking pictures with my camera phone and everything, but I'm sitting there glad that we don't have car trouble.
Yeah. I mean,
And
it's hot. You're gonna be stuck.
well, because I can't make a call.
Yeah.
I can't make a call in a lot of these areas where we're the mountains are blocking it. In addition to the remoteness, and the remoteness already had a low signal even when the mountains weren't blocking it. So like there's a serious bit of like grounded reality even today. If you just update their phones to iPhone 12s or whatever, it doesn't mean that now they can make those calls. Mm-hmm. They're probably just as much up Schitt's Creek unless they have a satellite phone or a CB radio.
Yeah, and no, you're absolutely right too. And after his car goes into the river, I mean,
I love that, by the way.
It just starts floating, but there goes his charger, right? There could go his cell phone. So then you have the wife who's missing, then you have him with his phone in his car. It gets soaked, and then he's on his own without a phone. I mean, it's without a wallet. You could really set this up, and I don't know. You know what's interesting too is during the commentary, the director Jonathan Mostow was saying that he got a lot of props from sort of Hollywood. Like people in Hollywood liked this movie because they felt like it was a old school sort of Hitchcockian Western type thing that just was all meat and potatoes. So I think a lot of people respected this. Like even Ebert, he had a negative thing to say about it at the end, but he also said that it's a taut, skillful, and surgically effective story of a man who finds himself trapped in a surrealistic nightmare. And what's interesting, in 97, there were several movies about people's cars who broke down. So he had U-Turn with Sean Penn, but that was like a Oliver Stone movie that was kind of hyper stylized and like a lot more like Oliver Stone-y, like sexual and like noir-y. You had
was Freeway with Reese Witherspoon?
Oh goodness, was that 97? I feel like that was 96. But yeah, that one's like a cartoon. I remember her in that movie just being like the Roadrunner. I don't know. It just that was gnarly. I remember watching that movie with Kiefer Sutherland, and I remember just thinking, this is a lot. This is a lot for 14-year-old me. This movie's big, but like you had that surrealistic nightmare Lost in the middle of nowhere. You had The Edge where the plane crashes and they have to fight bears. Actually, 97 in general was a terrible year for travel. You had Con Air, you had Air Force One, you had Fifth Element, he was a cab driver, you had Speed 2, that was on a cruise ship. Lost World, look what happened to that boat. Alien Resurrection's on a ship. Starship Troopers, every ship blows up. The Edge, a plane goes down. So Anaconda, you're on a boat. So it was just a terrible year for travel in general. I guess for me, I remember just watching this and it just didn't have like a saucy edge to it. It didn't have a lurid edge to it. It didn't have, you know what I mean? Like remember U-Turn, they hyped up the appearance of Jennifer Lopez and then Billy Bob Thornton and the murder and all that. Like, so I don't know. I know I'm using a lot of words to get my initial feelings about this movie, but I've really enjoyed how it's evolved for me, and I've said that 3 times as well. But I just watching this now, it's so refreshing, John. When you saw 93 minutes for the runtime, did it make you kind of happy?
It takes us back to a time where like the hour and 52-minute movie was considered long. Yeah. And now that's like average. And now you have like a Batman movie that's 2 hours and 50 minutes. And in the theater, you don't want to go take a leak because you don't want to miss a fight scene.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, sometimes more is better. But I remember seeing 90 minutes. And I was like, with trailers and even the intro's 3+ minutes long. So this movie is probably, an actual movie, it's 80-something minutes. And it just, I don't know. It makes me so happy now to talk about. And it's also cool when you can really revisit a movie and like it a lot later. And also too, like, I think this movie, what I love about this movie in the beginning, you get some really cool directing because it's 3 minutes of credits, but it's them driving into the middle of nowhere. Like, in Night of the Living Dead, you spend the entire credits with Barbara, and they're coming for you, Barbara, and her brother driving into the middle of nowhere. So you're like, oh, okay, these guys they're out in the country. So here you have the maps, you have the middle of nowhere. Then you show that they're in the middle of the desert, but they're from Massachusetts. So like, oh, okay, so they travel a long way. And I dig that about the storytelling because you don't really have to say anything then. You just have to, you're like, okay, they're from Massachusetts or driving across country. Like, I love storytelling like that. And also, I knew I loved Kurt Russell's character when he goes to get his coffee and a car pulls in front of him. But what I really love is that he's like, oh man, that guy pulled in front of me. But then he goes, but I did take my eyes off the road for a second. Mm-hmm. So, John, when people make mistakes and then they're like, oh, that car came from nowhere, but you didn't look. Like, I hate when people do that. It's like, no, you didn't look. That's why the car, like, so at least he admits that I took my eyes off the road. Did you like that at all? Like, is that story, like, did you notice any of the storytelling?
No, it seemed realistic though. Like, he had an emotional in the moment reaction of denial.
Yeah.
Right. And then later, he got to reflect on it. 'Cause, and also he saw the guy later. He was waiting for him to dig into him at the gas station. He was waiting for it during that interaction. So, because he knew he did something wrong.
Yeah. No, but this is nice. Like, I like that little beat. And, Kathleen Quinlan by this time was an Oscar nominee. And so she said she accepted this role after reading the first 10 pages, but I guess she didn't read on and realize that she was gone for most of it, which makes me laugh. But I like their little lived-in relationship with the snacks. And also, too, you want to hear something interesting, John, and my apologies if you know this, but he had just gotten off a movie, Kurt Russell. And when he would do a movie, Goldie would do a movie. He would do a movie, Goldie would do a movie. That was their deal. And they would go with each other wherever they went just to be like, because that's why they've been together so long. They seem to like have a good system. And they really wanted him for this movie. So he's like, listen, if you can pick me up at 8 and get me home at 8, I'll do it. But he lived in another state. So every day a private jet was waiting for Kurt Russell. It would pick him up, fly him to the nearest airport. A helicopter would be waiting for him. A helicopter would fly him to set. Then he would shoot as much as he could and then get home, like leave around 5 or 6 to get home by 8. And every take was 2 or 3 takes at most. And they didn't shoot much extra film. Like the director's cut would be 100 minutes. So they actually went back for 3 more days. Kurt Russell agreed to it because he's like, yeah, we need this. But he on a private jet every day flew in and then took a helicopter just so he could leave his house at 8 and be home at 8 p.m. to do it. That's what they did for him while filming this. That's the life.
I wonder how much of the movie's budget was that.
$30 million budget, but you got to think gas, pilots, plane, rental. I mean, De Laurentiis maybe owned the plane, but that's
even still.
Yeah, that's what do you think? Not a third of the budget.
Plus the helicopters.
Yeah.
Plus the helicopters. Like, is that a couple million? Back then? Several million?
Yeah, I mean, private jets with fuel, flying, pilots. I mean, you have 2 pilots.
Well, whatever airport fees they're paying too.
So let's say they shoot for 45 days. Is that 10? That's not 10 million, is it? 5 million?
It's
insurance.
It's a lot of money. No matter what, it's a lot of money.
Yeah. So but you know what though? You put Kurt Russell in your movie in 97, you make 50 million on an R-rated, very, for lack of a better word, adult-themed action, thriller.
Is that how much this made adjusted?
Yeah.
For inflation?
No. Adjusted for inflation, in 97? So it probably made 80, 90 nowadays.
So it made 50 in 97.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Okay. For this movie too. I mean, there's nothing like sexy about it. There's no aliens. There's no Nicolas Cage ripping his face off. There's no convicts on a plane. There's no president, get off my plane, Harrison Ford. This is just a white knuckle Kurt Russell picture with him running around in a polo. And even the set pieces. I mean, he runs and he looks for a car. He gets under he gets under the semi. Even him running to get to the semi, he looked exhausted. But that's like 3 minutes. That's 3 minutes where he gets under the truck and climbs to the back. That's a 3-minute sequence. Then he's in the barn for 5 minutes and 45 seconds, and then it's the chase scene. It's like there's not much action in this movie, and the fact that it made 50 million, that's pretty good. That's really good. So that's why you bring in Kurt Russell, right, and you have him on a private jet from 8 to 8 every day. But that's crazy. And he said this was the most stressful he'd ever been on a movie before. He said it was the hardest shoot ever because he was stressed all day during shooting. So he said he went home at night and just was like tense as heck. So I thought that was it. I love his commentaries, man. Get a good old Kurt just laughing the entire time on commentaries. But I don't know. I just wanted to drop that fact on you about bringing him in for this. But I guess are there any movies recently that have been like this? I just put you on the spot. So
any movie that even resembled this the tiniest bit had way more action. And I'm not going to try and say that like Unhinged is in any way a similar movie to this. But, that is the Russell Crowe Unhinged, not the horror movies. But, like, again, that's a movie that is just vile and brutal and has a lot of action. And so, it's like That just popped to mind though. This kind of like road rage stalkerish thing for some reason. It is the only link I have. But yeah, you think of Joyride. That's more horror thrillerish. It's advertised as such, and it is as such, right? It's very feisty, but it's still very mean, and it's still like got fangs that are dripping, if you will, almost in the script.
People die in that movie. Yeah, it's a gnarly little picture.
This is a tough one, right? I can't think of anything that's really similar to this.
Yeah, it's and I guess that's a good thing, right? And it's kind of neat that it actually made $50 million. It didn't even receive a release worldwide. It just received a it just was released domestically, and it hung on pretty good. I mean, it beat Austin Powers the first week at the box office, but I mean, it had some tough competition. It was against Austin Powers, Volcano, Liar Liar, Romy and Michelle's, Anaconda, and then it was up against like The Fifth Element, and then it had to go up against actually nothing that following week. But then you had Lost World, Jurassic Park, and like everything died away. But I mean, during the summer months to make
that's a great summer movie season right
there.
Yeah,
right. But to make $50 million with those movies, it's pretty good, man. You take your money and you run. Because do you know why they made this movie? Jonathan Mostow was working with Stephen King to do a movie about trucks, one of Stephen King's novellas, because they had worked, like the De Laurentises had worked with him on Maximum Overdrive, but something happened where they couldn't put Stephen King's name on it. So Mostow was like, I'm not going to make a Stephen King movie and not put Stephen King's name on it. Like, we're not doing that. So he was driving through the country. He remembered seeing a bunch of missing signs. He talked to somebody in the FBI. This guy in the FBI told him about how many people actually go missing and how many are found. And then he just went and wrote this script in 3 weeks because they had the trucks already. They had the trucks. So he's like, well, I was supposed to make a truck movie, so I guess I got to go make a truck movie. And he just wrote this.
That's pretty good for a quickly written script.
Yeah, right? And it just makes me, and I know a lot of it went out the window too, because JT and Kurt Russell cut a lot of his lines too. He's like, I'll just do it with my acting. Don't worry about it. But you were originally supposed to make a horror film with trucks. And then you can't get Stephen King's name on it, so you rewrite it in 3 weeks. You get Kurt Russell, you put it out during the summer, and you make $50 million. That's a flex, right?
Probably wouldn't have happened with the Stephen King movie.
No, that would have this was the age of like Thinner. Remember that? Thinner,
which I love though. I love Thinner, but yes, fair enough. It doesn't get the acclaim that I think it deserves.
You know what's weird, John? That movie has stuck in my memory for years. I don't know why, but it's just a gonzo little picture, and they release it in theaters, and and the star, oh man, yeah. Also Storm of the Century has stuck with me. Do you remember Storm of the Century in '99?
Oh yeah.
Colm Feore, when he kills that lady, and then he's like, "Give me what I want, I'll go away in blood." And then that guy walks in the house, he turns his cane around, the cane sees him. You know all this, but then he just goes, what? She's like, she's waiting for you in hell? I remember seeing that when I was 17 and going, I'm not sleeping. I'm done. I'm out of here. This is no good. Hey, so how about this? Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we will talk more breakdown. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Movies, Films, and Flicks. And so I reached out on Facebook. I asked some people, what are your favorite 1997 action films, thrillers, or horror films that involve a boat, car, or spaceship? And so we got Tomorrow Never Dies, a stealth boat ran by Rupert Murdoch. Then, from William Underwood. Then Zenandi Boetes, MFF frequenter. She wrote The Anaconda Boat of Doom from Anaconda. And then Billy Boyko wrote Dante's Peak. He wrote Tough Boat Ride with an acidic lake eating it away. And
that was brutal. The grandmother got it.
Yeah.
That was sad.
Yeah, that was, I don't know why I laughed, because that was such a gnarly scene. And then he put Event Horizon, just a great looking spaceship with a dark secret. And then Aaron Newworth of the Out Now with Aaron and Abe podcast, he wrote 1997, he wrote Face Off. There's a great boat chase. In Con Air, you have the guy with the ass kicker car, the Shelby, I think. In Fifth Element, you have the taxi cab. In Starship Troopers, you have the spaceship. In Mr. Nice Guy, you have the giant tractor. And then Tomorrow Never Dies, you have the motorcycle chase.
God, Mr. Nice Guy, I haven't seen that 20 years.
Remember the giant
tractor? That
Jackie
Chan movie?
Yeah.
No, I don't remember that.
I loved it. Starting in 90.
Was that the movie with the ladder fight?
That was
First Strike.
Yeah, First Strike.
First Strike. Okay.
Yeah. But remember in 95 when Tarantino was like, you got to watch Jackie Chan movies. So then Jackie Chan movies started playing in the United States in 95. That was awesome. But then he also wrote, what is the best you've seen from J.T. Walsh? So what is the best performance you have seen from J.T. Walsh? Which is tough.
Dude, it's probably this though. Again, this is the biggest role I'm aware of that I can think of. Like he's got a lot of memory staying power from A Few Good Men, being that kind of ghost slipping in the back of their car and giving them information and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm inclined to say this.
Yeah, he's really scary in this one, but I mean he's also in Backdraft. He doesn't have too big of a role in that. Tequila Sun. I liked him in Tequila Sunrise, but I'm not gonna say that's his best. I think this one. Yeah, I mean, A Few Good Men. He's really good in that. What a great character actor. Oh my gosh. Oh, he was in The Client too. I mean, he was in Outbreak.
He's almost always a character that's there to like just increase the G-force of the gravity of the situation. Really, he's intense.
That's a great point.
He doesn't need to raise his voice to do it. He doesn't need to speak fast or loud to do it. He's someone who just tonally and with his expressions brings gravity.
He's the day player or the week player that you just want. You want him in there because he'll hit a home run. No matter if he's sitting in a back seat, he'll be great. He's sitting in a truck, he'll be great. He's sitting in a boardroom, an executive decision. Oh no, he's sitting on an airplane in boardroom or executive decision. It'll be great. I don't know. He's also in Sling Blade, but I don't remember him in Sling Blade.
I haven't. That was a great movie that I can't imagine myself wanting to watch again.
What are you gonna do with that Sling Blade there, Carl? I reckon I'm gonna kill you. French fried potatoes.
French fried potatoes.
Lucas Black, Tokyo Drift. But that was a great question. But you know what? I guess recency bias. I'm gonna say Breakdown because he's scary in this movie.
This is his biggest role and it's probably his best role.
And he could have overplayed this, John. Like when the cop's there, when Rex Lee is the cop from this movie. I mean, years prior he was just killing everybody in Cliffhanger, like a huge name just to come in as a cop for this film. But he could have been doing that little thing where he puts his thumb on his nose and like moves his fingers or like, sticks his tongue out at Kurt Russell or does the crazy eyes at him. But he plays it so straight in this film and he's just so scary and he doesn't waste any time, 50 minutes. And then he's like, yeah, well, how do I know my wife is alive? They just punch him in the gut. The guy is not going to waste time with you. You are going to get that money. You know what I mean? Like, that's scary. So, yeah, you know what? Let's say this. And, recency bias. But, yeah, that's it. Those are the things we had from Facebook. You said you have some questions?
So, I do. I think they come down to filmmaking, but or decisions. Or, they chose not to answer some questions. You know what I mean? But, like, is it our bad guys' MO that they just get you stranded on the side of the road, kill you, and take your car? Is that what are they a chop shop operation? Like, what is their profiteering operation? Because if they just get you and kill you, like the couple from Ohio, where everything was easy when they both got in the truck, mm-hmm. right? If you just get them and kill them, all you get is what's in their wallets and their car. So are they just a chop shop operation? That's never brought up.
Does he make them go to the bank and take money out?
No. Remember, he just had in the past because he wanted Kurt Russell just to get into the car.
Yeah.
That way they could just kill them both like they did the couple from Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they want. They want to just kill you right away.
And take the car.
Is that it? This is just a chop shop operation.
Yeah, because I still think they have the license plates. They aren't driving nice vehicles. They don't have the greatest home. If you see the amount of people they probably killed and we're getting 40, 50 grand from each of them, that's not happening. So yeah, they might just be, it might just be the easy kill. Because if someone goes in the bank and rats on them, so they probably just do the nice and easy thing of getting them. And then, no, but you know what though? They have a system. Because our boy, Jack Noseworthy from Event Horizon, Baby Bear, he's there acting like a kind of simpleton to Billy to get Kurt Russell to not talk to the cops and go to another place where he can just be killed. They're just going to kill him.
But I don't think that's normal.
No.
I don't think they've done that because the only reason that happened was because Kathleen Quinlan kept them from killing her by saying they had $90,000. Yeah. Otherwise, they were going to kill her.
Yeah, Donut King.
Right. So they were just going to kill her and be done with all this. All this. It's not their goal to do this bank operation. That was, I think, done on the fly. I don't have any reason to suspect they've ever done this.
Yeah, because that would risk them getting caught. They seem to just have a pretty good.
Yeah. So that was interesting to me, though. These facets never came up in the movie. And honestly, while you're watching, you're not questioning the stuff while you're watching the movie, unless you're watching the movie multiple times in a week like we do, right?
Yeah.
But like just in a casual viewing, you're just in it. You don't think about this until the movie's over, if you think about it at all. But I just thought that was interesting. And then I'm even wondering, again, but I'm not questioning the writing of the character of Kathleen Quinlan's character. I can't think of Jeff Taylor's wife's name, Kathleen Quinlan. Amy. I can't think of. I'm not saying that I question the writing for Amy, but was it smart to say $90,000? Was it smart to give a specific number, or would it have been smarter to just say, "I don't handle the finances. My husband handles the finances, but we have it." So, because that was relying. The only reason that worked was because the dude says he ain't no donut. They were going to shoot him. They were going to kill him. And he was just frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like she wouldn't have said that and expected the bad guy to be like, so you're the donut king of wherever, like the sausage king of Ohio and in Ferris Bueller. Like, you're the donut king. How much you got? Like,
yeah.
So like in a way that was kind of I don't know if it's reckless on the part of Amy, but Amy's terrified, right? Mm-hmm. She's scared for her life, or if it was careless on the part of the writing, just in that one little moment. But when the character says he ain't no donut king, that's where I'm like, why would he say that? That just popped into my head. It's just, but it's good cinema though. It's good cinema because when he says it, I'm not rolling my eyes. I'm in it and I'm like, oh shit, now he's gonna know the thing. Like it works.
Mm-hmm.
It works almost like putting a gag in someone's mouth in a movie. We all know that you can still make a loud noise if someone haphazardly puts a sock in your mouth, right? Mm-hmm. But as my uncle who is an actor told me, because I asked him this exact question, why on earth do they put a gag in your mouth or put like a piece of cloth across your mouth and like we're just supposed to believe you can't yell or say things? And his answer was because the director believes the audience will allow it.
Because at least you've done something. To be like, oh, they can't yell because they put a sock in the mouth.
Right.
Like they tried. Is that?
Or if you ever saw the movie, what was it, Marshall, about Thurgood Marshall, with Josh Gad and Chadwick Boseman, they do that in court where they demonstrate how a woman was gagged and she said, I couldn't call for help. He says, you couldn't call for help because she was lying and it was a rape trial.
Oh.
And so Josh Gad is gagged. And he screams in front of the court. And, of course, they're reenacting something that really happened in real life with Thurgood Marshall and his assistant lawyer. Wow. Yeah, so it was a really cool thing to finally see that in a movie where, like, people who don't think like us, who are breaking down movies all the time, can be like, oh, wow.
That's a great point because in this movie, I think the weakest point of it is that they have the conversation about donuts. She buys donuts. And listen, when I'm on road trips, I definitely eat more unhealthy than what I normally do. So she buys donuts, but then you get the floating donuts from the Jeep. One more time. They do a close-up of the $90,000 on the donut. And you're like, oh, okay. And then you get, the Donut King, which isn't necessary. But when you're on the journey with him, you're like, oh, the donuts, because they're $90,000. Right. Like, I guess it's kind of tight, but you're in it because they set up that world. But it does take you out a little bit because you're like, man, that's a lot of focus on donuts. Like when they show that close up of donuts now, and I know the donut result, I kind of laugh because I'm like, oh, okay. Like I know you got to guide audiences sometime, but like you're hinging everything on a 90,000 donut gag from an hour ago. But yeah, I don't know.
It all works during the movie.
Yeah.
Again, we to our listeners, it's like we watch this movie multiple times in a week or two. Mm-hmm. So you start thinking about it differently. It's easy to separate yourself from being in the moment of the movie, right? Like I've got another one, and I swear this is not me trying to pick on a movie. I just observed it. That's what you get for leaving your hood open when you go into the store.
Yeah. But He was with his
He
car.
never went in the store. He
No,
never went in the store,
no.
and he even asked his wife what she got in the store. He wasn't in the store. We saw him lift the hood. We saw the guy pull up. We saw him roll his eyes. They had their whole interaction. He's still out there. I mean, they're cuts, but he's still out there. Then his wife comes to the car, and again, later he acknowledges, "What did you get?"
Yeah.
We have every reason to believe he was never in the store. But again, I'm going to call this maybe they changed something, maybe they cut something, maybe they didn't film something that was in the script because they thought it was unnecessary. They wanted to keep it lean. Maybe he did run in the store for a moment because she forgot her credit card.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not in the movie, right? And so like when he said that, and I'm sitting there watching this movie for the third time in a couple weeks, I found myself saying, he wasn't in the store. And then I rewound it and I watched the scene again. I'm like, I have no reason to believe he was in the store. Again, I'm not picking on the movie, listeners. I'm not picking on this movie at all. This stuff, I think this stuff just happens sometimes. The writer was thinking one thing, and then they cut scenes, or maybe the director was thinking a different thing, or maybe even Kurt Russell said, why do we need to show that? And you don't think to go back, and when you reverse engineer, you might miss something, right? But that just struck me as one of those little things that was missed.
Absolutely, because he has to go under his car to reattach what's there. And MC Gainey never reaches deep down in the car and pulls out cables. And he doesn't go underneath the car. The only time you see somebody reaching in the car is when JT goes down in there to look. But that's after his car is already broken down. So yeah, I think you're right.
So I was wondering about that, but I wonder if there wasn't another guy in his car when he came to harass Kurt Russell, Jeff. And he slipped out while they were talking, and that distraction allowed someone to slip under there and do that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he kept him busy, right?
Yeah. We don't see it. They never mention it. But but again, this is something where like third viewing, I had to tell myself, I guess that's what happened.
Yeah. Because you know what's funny, John, is I just built in a narrative about my head about MC Gainey sneaking under there real quick. Like, oh yeah, I'm sure he just dove under there. But yeah, yeah.
That's a big dude, though, by the way. Even though he's way leaner in this movie than he is, like
Club
when
Dread.
we see him in Sideways or Club Dread. Right. I'm not ragging on the guy, but he put on a good amount of weight. I put on a good amount of weight in the last 10 years.
We all
get it.
We all have.
Right. But like that dude, even not being so large as we've seen him in later movies, I don't see him spryly hopping down and doing that pop, his hat's not getting messed up. You know what I mean? His hair's not he's got long hair too. That's something else.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that would look off.
Nobody pulls that cable. It should have just been his car overheated, John. Like his car just simply overheated because he was pushing it too hard. That's it. Does that make sense? Like that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm okay with that.
Your car overheats.
I'd be okay with that.
You take a new car out, you push it too hard, you don't put enough oil in, you don't check enough, you don't check the filters. Yada yada, car overheats. You don't have any water. Like it's because it's a new car, so you don't think about it. So it's just, I bought a new bike once. I bought a new bike in St. Pete, John. I went to go ride it to the movie theaters at Tyrone, and both my pedals fell off. When you buy a new bike, you don't think to check the pedals to make sure that they're tight, right? When it's already built. So I was riding, I'm like, what just happened? Like I have no pedals on my bicycle. So yeah, I mean, I would have bought that. But yeah, when he says, yeah, you left your hood open, you're like are you Mr. Fantastic? Like what's going on here? But yeah, that's another one that stuck out for sure. And I mean, listen, this is and also too, like, these guys are serial killers, John.
Oh yeah.
And maybe it's good that they're not played as serial killers, but they're serial killers.
You know what else is interesting about that? When you normally see a movie with a crew like this that gets into the situation where they're like, where one guy says, we just need to kill her, right? We just need to kill Amy Taylor. Normally in one of these movies, there's someone who looks nervous, like they're the weak link. They're the line. They're the person who you can reach out to. They're the person who the kidnapped person looks to and sees a line, sees an option, right? Or they're the person who pauses when they should have just pulled the trigger at Kurt Russell. But in this case, they're all they are unflaggingly, unquestionably, unpausingly on board. Where he's like, "Yep, we just got to kill her." He's like, "All right, well, let's go have breakfast first. We're gonna put her down here in this thing.
Yeah.
She's just gonna suffocate." But you'd think like, "Oh, that way no one has to pull the trigger." But also, you just don't have a mess.
Yeah.
And they're casuals. Just they went and ate breakfast, Mark.
Yeah.
They went and ate breakfast. They were having eggs, and not only that, they locked the barn. Right? Red's wife is like, "Why is the barn locked? What are you guys doing? I've got breakfast." They're like, "Okay, all right, I'm done. Let's go eat breakfast, honey." Right? It's like it's just everyone's cool with it. Like no one's freaking out. Like, "Oh my God, Red's wife is about to fight." No, they're all calm as a cucumber, dude.
Yeah. The chillest
How
serial
many
killers.
people have they killed? It's not the people from Ohio when one other car is worth of people. It's not. They've been doing this a few times a year for 8 years.
They've killed at least 20 people.
Right? They're used to this.
And they sleep fine.
Oh, dude, like the dead.
Is that good then? I mean, maybe we've just never seen such relaxed serial killers, because if you look through cinema, serial killers are always dancing or
Dude, yeah, they're
Kevin
basically
Spacey.
just an unsensationalized natural born killers.
or Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right? They're totally, their blood pressure never went up.
No. And they
Not even when Kurt Russell had a gun at Red's face at his breakfast table with his wife present, who knows nothing about any of this. He like, you know, that again, okay, this is another thing where I say, like, in any other movie, that's where that guy, you see a drop of sweat come down his face, right? Like he's not panicking, but he's nervous.
Mm-hmm.
No. He's a comic, and he, with the gun to his head, he's like, "I don't know what this guy's talking about, honey. Like, how do you think this is gonna play out?" He thought he could talk his way out of this.
Oh man. And then he just shoot him. He just tells his kid, shoot him.
Right?
And then the kid goes to shoot him.
That kid is gonna be in therapy for the rest of his life.
Oh man.
If he does that.
And then, you know what I like too is normally, like you said, there's a good guy who helps him escape. At the end, the three of them are chasing him down like a bunch of raptors.
Oh yeah.
2 cars on one side, truck in the back.
Dude, okay, wait. I want to come back to it in any other movie. This is the third time I will have said this in any other movie about this crew. So there's one car on them, right? And then there's 2 cars on them, and then there's 2 cars and a truck on them. They run a car off, and that dude is absolutely dead, and the car explodes in Michael Bay sensationalism. Yeah. Like, he's dead. You see the fat guy look over his shoulder, look right back, and just keep like banging. He's not pissed off. He's not upset. He's just like, well, there he goes.
Yeah, we got to get it done. They're very efficient. I got a job.
Like no one, that shit doesn't get acknowledged. Other than looking over his shoulder for a second, almost like he was making sure that the lane was clear before changing lanes.
Yeah, Jack Noseworthy. Nobody missed Billy when he died.
But again, any other movie with this crew, right? You know, even if it's just for a second and a half of screen time.
Think about Heat.
Right, it's like, "You son of a bitch," and then he's more angry and puts more body English when he tries to angle the car into them again. You know, there would be something like that, but no, these guys, this is just a Tuesday for them.
Raul Julia.
Like, really, this is just a Tuesday.
Oh man, yeah, and then what? I think one of them. I think Red, after Billy dies, just goes shit. Like, that's all he says, or is it
Shit.
after Or is it after Al flips in the air through the trailer of the truck, and he flies up in the air and dies? I think he just says, "Oh crap," because he's like, "Well, there's one car down." They're just yeah. And then also with the truck scene too, it's just I don't know. The truck scene, that scene was promoted so heavily in the trailers. What do you think about that truck scene where Russell's hanging from the windshield wiper? You have, of course, Kathleen Quinlan's leg is trapped. This is a movie that makes me laugh, because it's like there's one car chasing him, and then it gets 2 car chases. It's always the worst case scenario. And then you have Quinlan's legs getting stuck, and then you just have a kind of truck fight with a chain. Russell wins. And wait, no, you know what I do like, John, is that during the commentary, what's the exact word that Kurt Russell used? He said he did not want to become a Superboy in the movie. So the scene where he pulls the gun on MC Gainey, you know, he just cut the thing open, he stabbed him in the thing, a cop shows up. Like, he's not Superboy yet. Like, even the driving scenes, he's not Superboy. And I think he only wins because he just grabs the chain. Do you like at the end he's not winging haymakers and being like, Superboy? Like, do you like that he wins, but it's still quite ugly? Did you appreciate that?
Yeah, well, I appreciate the grittiness of that ending.
Yeah.
I'm also the kind of person where whether it's a horror movie or an action movie or a drama, I don't like all my movies to be happy endings. I like a little reality, or at least I won't say reality, but I like the more grounded version of how this would turn out every now and then. I like seeing those. I think it's bold also on the part of the filmmakers, even though I think it's more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're afraid of losing their audience's sensationalized reactions, right? You want people to leave elated and relieved. And in this, I think that anyone who was really stressed out watching this movie in theaters, they were kind of relieved, but they were still stressed out, like walking out of the theater. The movie doesn't give you a break. You're worried. You get more worried. You're getting stressed out. You're getting really stressed out. Where is his wife? Is she alive? What's going? It doesn't go to like Russell Crowe Unhinged. You keep increasing the stakes, and it never does it in an infeasible way. Mm-hmm. It's all very real.
Yeah.
It all feels like things that could happen to any poor schlub who crossed this crew who apparently, they're sitting there out there with a probing car. And do they just deliberately pull out in front of someone?
They must, yeah.
And hope that, or do it in such a way that they are going to have to slam on the brakes. And then they dramatically make it seem like they're going off the road even if they didn't have to. And then they just wait until they see them at a gas station hoping that they will because it's been a long time. Like I feel like they're going to have a lot of misses.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right? Or they get behind them and it's an Arizona license plate and they're like, not this guy, or, oh, their car looks too good. Or, I want to know some logistics. I want to know their business plan. How do they do this for like 2 days in a row, once a month, probing for cars? Or is one guy doing this like from 8 to 10 every day, and if he finds something, he CBs to his trucker buddy, who then abandons it. He has a real job though, so he can't just drop what he's doing anytime. His wife thought he was away for a week.
So maybe that's what they do, like a couple weeks out of the year.
And his truck was empty.
Couple weeks out of the year.
Yeah.
And he told the cop, he's like, I got a load, I got to bring to Fresno, and then they open up the back of it and it's empty. But no, yeah, it's he can't do it all the time. He can't. I don't think you can, because he has to make money. I mean, he lives on a pretty big farm, so you have to.
But he also has a child and a wife who, well, we don't know, may or may not work. Yeah. Well, I'm going to assume she works, but either way, he has a child too. So yeah, like you got to have a benefits package.
So he's working on the road, then he takes maybe PTO off to, he probably has his own truck, so he doesn't need to take PTO, but maybe he needs health insurance. So weekends?
Again, though, if you're never home, your wife's going to know.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, I feel like, so this has to be or he's been doing it their whole relationship, and she just thinks this is what it's like when you're married to a trucker.
Yeah. Because there's so many license plates.
And I can come up with plenty of reasons, right? Like PTO. Well, what if the wife says we never go on any vacations? Then he says, nope, I worked through them, or I burned it for cash. We needed it to pay for the car. I'm sure he could come up with reasons, but it's like, again, these are not criticisms. It's just there's so many aspects to this movie. Most movies go out of their way to explain things, and if anything, we're discussing how they explained it poorly. In this, we're just seeing these people go through their daily job. When you're going through your daily job, you don't explain everything to the movie screen, right? They're just doing their thing. This is their thing.
I do welcome this. You don't have a scene where Billy goes, we've been doing this for 8 years on the weekends, and we always run out, and we have a 10% hit rate. Normally we're lucky, but we're pretty much not always lucky. So I know JT Walsh had a speech in this, so they probably cut all that out and just sort of leave it up to you to think about. But yeah, I'm kind of glad they didn't explain it. Man, I've been doing this for 3 years for you. I've killed 48 people. I had no vacations. I'm going to Disney. There's none of that.
Like you thought that was like that speech might have been the Jack Palance from Raw Deal speech kind of thing at the end.
Just dropping everything on people. But yeah, I don't know what he's doing. Because he works. He has a big compound. That one guy lives on his. I think the guy with who's the guy with the truck? Is that like one of the other people that live there? Al, maybe.
See, I don't.
That's a
He
work
might
truck.
just be a friend who lives nearby, because he does say the boys are here. You got to make breakfast. We have some work to do.
Yeah, that's true.
But I also imagine that they're in like some rural, again, Arizona, New Mexico, something or other. Land doesn't strike me as expensive. Again, and this is the 90s, and they probably bought their property in the 80s, right, when they were starting a family. And so maybe it was just a more reasonable time. You could buy a big property, get that shit done. I don't know,
I wonder if it's in the movie script, daily script breakdown. Oh yeah, so I just checked the script and I didn't see his dialogue in here. So maybe it's the first draft that didn't make it.
I was hoping that you were going to read it like in your best like cold J.T. Walsh voice.
Oh gosh, he's so mean in this movie. I was reading what he was saying about Kathleen Quinlan, like dark hair, like he's just evil.
Upstairs and down, Mark.
Oh, he's so evil. Oh man.
Just slimy, yeah.
But
that's it's funny too. That's like his one slimy moment. He almost, there's not a lot of swearing, not a lot. It's pretty pretty low on the swearing. The threats never get mean. It's not like where anyone's ever like, I'm gonna yank off your balls and feed them to you. You know what I mean? Like they're just like, just kill him. You know, where's the money? He ain't no Donut King. Just kill him. Like the dialogue. It is mean in intention, but not mean in words. And so that line, when he said that, but I guess when he said that, the black curly hair upstairs and down about his wife, I think he was trying to get to him to like weaken him, make sure that he knew that he had her, make him worry that he, I don't know, saw what he was saying or something. You know what I mean? But yeah, he's trying to get him to break, I suppose. And again, from our discussions, I don't think they have experience doing that. I think they just get people and kill them and take their cars. The quantities are their wallets. Run one charge on a credit card from Neiman Marcus at the mall 2 cities over before it gets canceled, right? You know, it's like, what do they? I think that's all they do.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. They are. There's just a bunch of killers who just get spared. I mean, it's smart though. They haven't been caught. Now, before we get out of here, one quick thing. Where would you put this in kind of Kurt Russell's performance? Like, where does this not rank? Because he plays so many different characters, man. Like Tequila Sunrise, he's slick. In Executive Decision, he's out of his league, but he can still land a plane. He's kind of a wannabe player. This one, he's just a blue collar Boston dude who looks richer than what he is.
Yeah. You know, I will. It's funny. I almost want to call this role forgettable. Not to us, but to someone who's not a major cinephile. I feel like you saw this movie and 5 years later you need to be reminded that it was Kurt Russell. Because he didn't bring Kurt Russell-ness. You know, there's no bravado. There's no fun blowhardiness. He's not doing the action. He's not doing the tough guy. So it's just, which is great. Good for him. He's doing a whole lot of different shit. It's not like, you know, I love Robert De Niro, but when you cast Robert De Niro, you're like, hey, play yourself. Or Ryan Reynolds, same thing. Love Ryan Reynolds, but we just want to see you be Ryan Reynolds. That is clearly not Kurt Russell.
Like you get, you get Captain Ron Russell, and then you get, kind of blowhardy and used cars Russell, and then you get Miracle Russell. Sky High Russell, the Thing Kurt Russell. There's so many different Kurt Russells around. And I think because of this, there's no major like machismo, like you said here, and there's no winking at the camera. There's no serious gunfights. There's no eye patch. There's no gorillas. So it's just him being tense for 90 minutes. So yeah, I mean, that's good though. He owns it, but
this is getting in my head a little bit. Did we already agree what the next Kurt Russell episode will be?
Backdraft? What was it?
That's just it. I don't know if we said, because just the way that we're talking about Tequila Sunrise and this, and when I think of Tequila Sunrise and this, I think of Dark Blue.
Oh, let's do that.
I kind of want to follow in the line of the less typical, less highly sensationalized movie of his, and see and keep going with these more understated roles. I mean, he's an obvious crooked cop when you see the trailer of the movie. But, it's like, I want to see this. I want to see this again, and I want to think about this in our Kurt Russell context. Backdraft, though. Whew.
We can do that for 500.
Ooh, that's a good one. That movie.
And JT Walsh is in it.
I see that every now and then, and I think I saw it last about a year and a half ago. There are so many scenes in that movie, and even though they don't have the special effects that are so easy to do now, that were so huge back then, just falling through the roof when they're checking for smoke holes,
Mm-hmm.
like, and the guy just goes down, like those scenes, it's just like, it's like it took the air right out of your lungs.
And we got De Niro in it. So we'll do that for 500, and we'll do Dark Blue for 475.
Dark Blue. All right. I got it. I'm gonna have to buy that, and I'm happy to do it. I'm excited to do it. I haven't seen it in a while.
Because that's Bad Cop, Russell, not Tango and
'Cause
Cash, Good Cop.
And it's funny. Like, I remember the trailer. It's, how you normally remember movies, the scenes from the movie. I still remember the trailer moment where Ving Rhames is giving a speech, like, oh shit, what'd he say? Like, some of my badge won't shine as brightly in my blues, in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was saying something about wanting to come down on the cop crime that was happening.
I don't remember that. I thought I did, but I need to watch it again because I watched it when it came out. And that was what, 2000, 2001, during that whole
I
craze?
probably haven't seen it since I was in college, like undergrad college. So like 2000 to 2003 was probably about the second time I saw it. I probably saw it the first time on Columbia House VHS when my uncle got it.
2002.
Yeah.
That's when it was. All right. Well, yeah, let's do it. I'm in. Sounds good to me. Cool.
Right.
Well, hey, where can people find you, John?
Boy, if you just Google John's Horror Corner, you're probably going to find my stuff pretty quickly. But I'm John's Horror Corner, the column on Movies, Films, and Flicks. I'm MFF Horror Corner on Twitter, and I'm John's Horror Corner on Instagram.
Check out his beer pairings with movies. They're wonderful.
Try to keep it classy.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for joining me, man.
All right, man.
All right. So for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, and for John Levengood, this is Movies, Films, and Flicks. We'll see you next week.